Hello, CitySpeak listeners. This is John Herrera with MuniTemps, and the CitySpeak blog today is called What City Hall Needs from its New Finance Director. Finance directors have been retiring in droves from City Hall throughout our country. This is an excellent time for ambitious young people who want a career in financial management to step up and compete for the finance director jobs left behind by our retirees. To be honest, many of the finance directors who retired in the 21st century, these started out as the office secretary or the clerk at City Hall, and they worked their way up through the top finance job of their city. Some of these never even had a formal education in finance or accounting, especially at smaller city organizations. Yet they received on-the-job training to learn what is required of the municipal finance officer in local government. But thanks to GFOA, CSMFO, and other good municipal professional development organizations, these provided valuable training to municipal finance officers who may have lacked the formal education in municipal finance. Thanks also to the city's internal auditors, who provided an army of CPAs to fill in the gaps in professional expertise to help city finance directors to close the books and prepare the financial statements each year. Thus, you young finance and accounting college grads may find that it's easier than you may realize to land or move up to the finance director post, as well as make the much needed improvements to the finance department at City Hall. Now, keep in mind, I'm not putting down retiring finance directors, especially those that never achieved the bachelor's degree or a CPA license obtained through the AICPA. I'm just stating the fact that the educational and professional standards 20 or 30 years ago are not at the high level where they are today. Today, a college degree and even a CPA are most desirable to city managers and elected officials who entrust tens of millions of dollars in the hands of their finance director. There's many examples of what can go wrong with a local government and their money when there is an incompetent finance director watching the books and financial systems at City Hall. Yet the retired finance folks, even those without the college degree or CPA license, possessed the most important qualities that are required of the municipal finance officer, the finance director. Here it is: honesty and integrity. Yes, you must be trustworthy. You must be an educated professional, but you must have integrity to be entrusted with the millions of public dollars that are used to provide vital city services that improve the quality of life for the residents of the community. The finance director carries a huge responsibility and fiscal stewardship. But you don't accomplish this alone. This is a mission that you commit and champion along with the city manager, the department directors, and the many other municipal employees at City Hall. And of course, I have to keep reminding you, for those of you who aspire to the finance post at City Hall, you're actually in search of a very good position. And there's very great job satisfaction. But keep in mind, most if not all finance directors today, they make six-figure salaries with excellent benefits and a nice government pension at City Hall. So you're paid good money to take care of the money for the communities you serve. So go for it. In this three-part CitySpeak series on what City Hall expects from its finance director, that's going to be covered during the next 2 weeks, I will be presenting firsthand experience to help finance and accounting professionals, especially those of you who are wanting to transition from the private sector to local government. And here's what we're going to cover, the 3 parts. Today we're doing part 1, character traits and skills the municipal finance director finance officer must have. Next week is part 2. 10 most important goals to achieve as the new finance director. And the subsequent week following, part 3. Keep the 80-20 rule, the Pareto Principle, in mind to keep your job at City Hall. Let's now discuss part 1 of this 3-part CitySpeak series. I hope it benefits you young people who are interested in a career as a municipal finance officer, which also goes by the job title of finance director. By the way, I will be using these 2 job titles interchangeably. Okay, here we go. Character traits and skills the municipal finance officer or director must have. There's many skills and character traits you must possess to succeed as a finance director. Skills in accounting, finance, economic, management, and information systems. These are skills you must possess to succeed as a finance director. So make sure that you, if you haven't already covered this, if you haven't already obtained this experience through your college program, take classes, go to night school, but you need to possess these skills to succeed as a city finance director. Again, skills in accounting, finance, economics, management, technology, these can all be acquired through training and education. However, character traits like leadership are qualities you're usually born with, in my opinion. And there's much written in the literature about whether leadership is an inborn quality or one that can be learned. But I'll let you research this topic to make up your own mind. During my 30-year career as a city finance director, I learned the do's and don'ts of the job. I made plenty of mistakes, especially during my first year in this appointed position. The 10 qualities that I have found to make for an effective municipal finance officer are many, but here they are. These are mine from my experience. Number 1, vision and foresight to know what's around the corner. The city manager or city administrator has the job of interpreting the city council or other governing body's vision. Finance directors need to know what they want as elected representatives of their community. You need to know what the city council and the governing bodies want. You, as the finance director, need to remain in tune with your city's vision and constantly be on the lookout for what's coming around the corner so that you can alert your city manager or your governing body accordingly. You need to keep the city manager and council abreast of proposed legislation at the state or federal levels and factor these into the current year and future years' budget projections to eliminate negative fiscal impacts, as well as program future revenues so the what do we do with this money has already been discussed in advance. I always thought of myself as having, as a finance director, I had a radar. And in that radar, I threw everything of a fiscal nature. Some of it I threw on the city clerk's agenda planning calendar. Some of it I threw on my meetings with the city manager. I kept a moving list, a fluid list of fiscal, opportunities and threats and so forth. You'll want to do that as well. So that way there's no surprises. And you have to keep that. You have to be forward-looking. But the finance director, we know basically plans, organizes, leads, and controls the financial storytelling, keeping track of trends and factors in predictable and unpredictable events to the best of their ability. No other director or municipal employee at City Hall is in the unique position of the finance director to know the pulse of the finances of their local government. You're the only one that can do it. Keep that in mind. Point number 2, big picture thinking. Broaden your horizons. As city finance director, you must always step back and look at the big picture. This is especially important when you're working with the city manager and the governing body to create solutions to politically sensitive issues. In this situation, always go back to the organizational chart. You know, the org chart is in your budget, it's in your comprehensive annual financial report. Go back, look at who the boss is, whose interests are most important here. It's the citizens who vote in the governing body. It's the governing body who hires their one employee, the city manager or other chief executive in a council manager form of government. The city manager or other chief executive is your primary boss and the boss of every municipal employee at your city or municipality. Think with this big picture in mind as you recommend fiscal strategies and solutions. Your goal as finance director is to accomplish the greater good for the greater number, as established through best practices and your organization's fiscal policies. Keep this second point in mind. Point number 3, results-focused mindset. Never get fat and lazy. I'm overweight, but I'm working on it. But as a finance director, never get fat and lazy, especially when there's little accountability or transparency in your organization, especially if there's a revolving door for city managers or chief executives in your organization. You will need to focus on accountability and transparency. Always uphold the highest standards for governmental accounting, auditing, and financial reporting. You're the one that's going to have to answer for that. What about efficiency and effectiveness for programs? Efficiency and effectiveness of programs and services needs to be quantified to provide performance standards in the budget. You know, I remember back in 1995, April of 1995, I was being interviewed for the finance director job at the city of San Jacinto, a small city in Southern California. Barbara Steckel, she's retired now, a retired finance director from the city of Riverside. She was on this interview panel. And I remember specifically, she asked me, John, what is an important accounting pronouncement that you believe is important and relevant to city government today? And I answered my favorite. I described the service efforts and accomplishments, SEA, because I believe then, as I believe today, we finance directors must strive to advance and incorporate performance measurements and results into every aspect of financial accounting, budgeting, and reporting to the stakeholders of the municipality. Yes, we finance directors need to focus on accomplishments, not just efforts, and to provide that information in user-friendly terms. I don't mean to be negative here, but do like a finance director report for dummies, or some kind of very basic, one page at a glance financial report that talks about service efforts and accomplishments and compares them to the budget. But service efforts and accomplishments, SEA accounting, was something we were promoting in municipal accounting back in the 1990s through the GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. But it would be some 20 years from that point before GASB would finally adopt SEA, Service Efforts and Accomplishment Accounting Standards, which finally got adopted in the middle of July of 2010. Yet SEA has actually morphed into other accounting standards, big changes like GASB 34 and others, with a goal of more comprehensive financial reporting and measuring results, not just efforts as we allocate and appropriate resources within our city and our municipal government organizations as municipal finance officers. No, we got to take a comprehensive view. You need to know what the balance sheet is and how to analyze a balance sheet, as well as the revenues and expenditures and expenses and so forth. Understand cash flows and be able to present all this with a performance-based orientation for our citizens. Our local government organizations and our communities deserve that we finance directors achieve results ourselves. And this requires that we maintain a results-oriented mindset even when nobody's asking about this. It is so easy to put these luxury accounting standards to lower priority when we're justifiably so, understaffed, overworked, underloved. Yet I believe service efforts and accomplishments and other results-focused accounting activities are a requirement rather than a luxury. SEA, service efforts accomplishments, is becoming especially clear as we finance directors see the stakeholders of our local government organizations and communities becoming more vocal about taxes and cost of services, especially our pensions. It's critical that we have a results-oriented mindset as a finance director. That was point number 3. Point number 4, candidness. There is no substitute for guts in doing the job of city finance director. It takes courage to tell the fiscal truth to your city manager, to the council, or to any other stakeholder who may be speaking in a blaringly loud voice through a bullhorn straight into your face. Of course, there's all these sharks out there and everybody wants to get their hands on the money, right? Sorry about that. Everybody wants to get their hands on the money. So you as finance director, never compromise frank discussions when significant financial decisions require you to speak. Remember, there's nobody else at City Hall who holds the fiscal steward responsibilities of the finance director. And there's nobody else who can do this job but you. Be bold and candid. That's point number 4. Point number 5, confidence. You must know the numbers, not just be familiar with them or rely on other people for them. By the way, there's 5 things that a city finance director should never delegate. But this is a topic for a future CitySpeak podcast. You need to know to never delegate any accounting task that will cause you to lose your confidence as you speak as the city's top finance professional. Remember, that's point number 5. Point number 6, honesty and political integrity. As important as candidness is, honesty is equally important. But the point number 6 here is that you must always tell the truth when you're asked a question. Even if you have to present the information in light of highly charged political discussions, always tell the truth, man. Political integrity is also a topic that I will discuss in a future CitySpeak episode. But sufficient to say here is that if you don't have political integrity, you will not have the trust and confidence of the city council, the city manager, and the directors and other stakeholders of the organization. You either got it or you don't. And we all have it until we lose it. I can go and speak before most city councils today in public session or closed session. And they can tell if I have political integrity or not. And if I don't have it, you're done, man. Always have political integrity working as a finance director at City Hall, or you will not be seen as much more than just an accountant at your organization. That's point number 6. Here's point number 7. Technical knowledge. I'll spend a little more time on this one if you don't mind, but the city finance director candidate must have specific technical knowledge to succeed as a finance director. You need to be very knowledgeable in accounting and finance, economics, management, technology, and so forth to succeed as a municipal finance officer. Hey, you don't get paid the 6-figure big bucks just to sit there looking pretty in the finance department's chair, finance director's chair. And you will be worth much more to your organization if you continue to develop your expertise, your education, and technical knowledge in accounting and finance. Let me stop for a second and talk about licensing. This is the reason. This is why pursuing a CPA license is so important. Those who want to keep their CPA license active must achieve a minimum of 40 hours a year of continuing professional education, CPE. This is something that's of value to the organizations that are served by the finance director when they have a CPA license. City managers, city councils, they all value it very much. But there's not just a CPA license. Today, there are other accounting designations. There's other certifications for municipal finance officers to pursue. But these are not licensed to engage in the practice of public accounting. The CPFO, Certified Public Finance Officer designation offered by the GFOA. We also have the CMA, Certified Management Accountant designation offered by the IMA, which is the Institute of Management Accountants. And then we also have the CGFM, Certified Governmental Financial Manager designation offered by the AGA, which stands for the Association of Government Accountants. Sorry about all the acronyms, but I think most of you in accounting and finance are familiar with these. But these are unique to local government, municipal government, and government in general. These three professional certifications are professional credentials that are very important. They're very valuable as a practitioner. But I want to remind you again, these are certifications, designations. They're not a license, like the CPA license, to engage in the practice of public accountancy, where the public trust and reliance on their attestation for auditing and other financial reporting. By the way, maintaining the public trust and credibility with the community is the top priority of finance directors. And this is an important reason why many pursue the CPA licensing requirements. The CPA license, too, is oftentimes pursued by the finance directors in addition to the other professional credentials offered by GFOA, IMA, and AGA. Let's talk a little bit now about the Code of Ethics. It's very important. The Code of Ethics, it's vital to the CPFO, the CMA, the CGFM, and of course the CPA. This is a professional standard that empowers the municipal finance officer and the finance director to stand up to the powers that be when his or her ethics are put into question. Remember I talked about the sharks at City Hall or other municipalities? You got to stand up, you know. I mean, it's not your money, but you are the steward. So you got to stand up. You have to maintain ethics. And this requires courage. That's why the CPA is so important. But the Code of Ethics, we're going to talk a little more separately on a separate CitySpeak podcast in the month of January, hopefully, or during 2021. But we'll talk about the Code of Ethics in the upcoming episode. So I say again, go and get your CPA license. I need to share that I went back to get my CPA license when I was 39 years old, after working as a city finance director for about 10 years. It was a huge undertaking. It was hard work, but I passed all 4 parts of the CPA exam in one sitting when it was still being done on paper. And I got an 86 average on all 4 exams on the CPA exam. I do a little bit of bragging rights, right? But I have to do it. If you go to MuniTemps.com, click on CitySpeak podcast, and on this blog for the what City Hall expects from its finance director, I've got a copy of my CPA exam results. I took them all at one time and I put it there on the website so you can look at it and you can see what the letter looks like when you receive the results of the CPA exam. I think today it's all computer generated, so it may be a little different, but you can see mine. My point is, if I can pass a CPA exam, you can too. And again, in a future CitySpeak episode, I'll tell you all about my experience passing the CPA exam while working full-time and raising a family. I thank my wife, Marissa, who was taking care of our 6 children while I was off going to school and working and doing all this stuff. But it can be done. It can. Go and get your CPA license or some other credential like CPFO, CMA, CGFM, etc. Credentials, the letters after your name, they matter. They definitely matter. We can talk about that another time. That was point number 7. Point number 8, change management. Change is a reality. even at City Hall and other municipal organizations. And although government has a reputation for moving very slowly, the residents, businesses, and other stakeholders, they're no longer happy with whatever level of customer service we provide as the finance director or any department of the municipal organization. We need to learn change management. You can learn change management skills and approaches that will help you help the city manager or other chief executive to bring about the new initiatives in the local government municipality. This can be an initiative that's as simple as just changing the pay cycle for municipal employees from once a month to every other week. Man, did we face hell at one city from a simple change like that. You think they'd love it? The employees would love going from once a month to every other week? Oh man, change, very difficult. But it can also be something as complex as, or more complex, as implementing a new ERP financial software. At one of my cities, I implemented HTE. If you remember SunGuard HTE, HTE, I think it's Jack Hardware's software company, whatever. But it was relabeled HTE Herrera's Terrible Error. It wasn't really an error. It was just that the organization didn't have the capacity to absorb too much technology at one time, and I learned my lesson there. But change management, implementing a new ERP financial software, it could cost you your job. It didn't cost me my job, but man, it gave me hell. ERP implementation war stories. This will be another episode of CitySpeak in the coming months that so keep an eye out for it. And I hope it helps you because many people think that implementing a new ERP system is the solution to all of their financial problems. It's not. We'll talk about that another time. Yes, change management is a valuable quality and a skill you must embrace to succeed as a municipal finance officer or finance director. That was point number 8. Point number 9, leadership. I already told you that I believe you're either a leader or you're not. You don't go to school to become a leader any more than you can choose to become the chosen one. You know that. Sorry for the humor, but in a movie, I think it's called Kung Pao, right? Steve Oedekerk. This one guy says, "Master, I thought perhaps someday I could become the chosen one." Anyways, dumb humor, but I'm a Steve Oedekerk fan. But my point is, if you're already a leader by nature, you can learn valuable leadership and management techniques by attending training programs offered by many good institutions. You can implement ideas to help your organization move forward important initiatives to fruition. And that requires leadership and it requires championing ideas. So let's talk about number 10. The last point is continuous improvement work ethic. Continuous improvement work ethic. Successful city finance directors must embrace a work ethic of continuous improvement. The business processes and procedures of the finance department and the organization as a whole, they must be regularly and periodically revisited as part of your role as a city's fiscal officer. You know, you have a list of activities that you do daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, biannual, and annually. You should be looking at your processes and procedures as part of a improvement. You should look at those at least once a year. You know, there are questions to be answered like how much would your organization save for every 1% improvement in efficiency? What would you do with this 1% savings? There's many questions that you can look at to justify why you should invest the time in this continuous improvement work ethic. This continuous improvement work ethic can be applied even to maximizing interest earnings on investments without ever sacrificing safety or liquidity, of course. Remember slide? Maximizing cost savings on everything from processing payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and many other financial and administrative duties that are under your responsibility as municipal finance officer, finance director. I could go on and on with the skills and character traits of a city finance director. But this list of 10 items, I think, covers 80% or better of what is required to succeed in the top finance post of any municipality. I hope that that's been useful to you. But in conclusion, I want to remind you, young accounting and finance professionals, look into a career as a finance director and municipal finance officer in local government. You have to work your way up, but look into it. It's easier than you think to land or move up to the finance director position that might be left behind by retirees. This is especially possible in smaller city organizations. But make no mistake about it. This money job of finance director, it's a huge responsibility. Anytime money is involved, you will have lots of people asking you for money. And in many cases, they want that money and bypassing the rules to get that money. So understand why the finance director job is such a big job. But again, hey, that's why you get paid the big bucks. It's not unusual for finance directors to make six-figure salaries, even in small city government organizations. The city pays these salaries because that's how important the position is to the going concern status of the municipal corporation. The finance director is vital to achieving the long-term fiscal sustainability of the organization. I know there was an interim city manager once that wrote on my evaluation. He was an interim, by the way. He said, "John thinks that the finance department is the most important department in the city." And I said, hell yes, I do, because it's my responsibility. I'm not saying the other departments aren't important, but to me, this is the most important department. So remember that. And you have to be the one who stands up for your department in finance. One last thing. Your technology experience and can-do attitude as millennials will allow you to accomplish the initiatives that baby boomer finance director started. As Isaac Newton said, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." So let us thank our baby boomers who are retired or retiring as finance directors. But it's your turn, millennials. So put your best foot forward, keeping in mind the first of this three-part series for finance directors. Go and land your first finance director job, millennials. Prepare your resume for finance director. I attach my personal resume as finance director for your perusal. Go to my website at MuniTemps.com and click on CitySpeak and today's blog post, and then you can look at an example if you need it. Our local governments and our communities need you. Please keep this in mind. This is John Herrera from MuniTemps, thanking you for joining me for today's CitySpeak blog, podcast, and video. During the next 2 weeks, I will bring parts 2 and 3 of what City Hall needs from its finance director. Please come back and see me again. And don't forget to click subscribe on the YouTube video channel. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the CitySpeak podcast. Tune in next time where we will talk again about everything relevant to stakeholders at City Hall and municipal government organizations.